Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, Lesotho's Prime Minister announces his exit before the May 22nd deadline. Thomas Thabane had come under pressure to step down of allegations that he had a role in the shooting of his ex-wife in 2017. Also, Burundian refugees in Rwanda watch the preparations for this week's presidential elections closely. Many fled violent political instability in 2015 and say that they're worried that the upcoming poll will lack transparency. And across West Africa, more mosques are reopening. In Senegal, coronavirus restrictions have been relaxed in some houses of worship, but there are concerns that public gatherings remain risky. But first, months of political uncertainty in Lesotho have come to an end with the resignation of Prime Minister Thomas Thabane. He'd long been under pressure to quit office early because of accusations that he'd played a part in the murder of his ex-wife back in 2017. His coalition fell apart last week, and he had been expected to step aside by May 22nd. South African correspondent Jane Flanagan tells us more.
So it was back in January that Thomas Thabane's name was first linked with the murder of his estranged wife, Lipolelo Thabane, almost 3 years ago. And since then, it seems as though the Prime Minister has tried absolutely everything in his powers to cling on to power, to extend his time in office, seemingly to arrange some sort of dignified exit for himself, so that he wouldn't lose face, and also, more importantly, to try and guarantee some sort of immunity from prosecution facing the charges of murder. His current wife, Mosque Thabane, has already appeared in court and been formally charged with ordering or some involvement in the organised assassination of her predecessor. And Mr. Thabane, it seems, hasn't been able to guarantee those assurances. So once he loses the trappings of power tomorrow, will be interesting to see whether he then faces formal charges in that matter. The Kingdom of Lesotho has never known political stability since its independence from Britain in the 60s. It's had a history of coups and political assassinations and instability. And whether tomorrow the swearing in of a new Prime Minister will bring any certainty to the kingdom remains to be seen. But certainly Mr. Thabane must be feeling very anxious about his fate going forward. And it's going to be interesting to see whether a sort of typical strong man of Africa finally gets a day in court.
Well, Nigeria has extended the coronavirus lockdown for the northern state of Kano for another 2 weeks. It's seen a spike in deaths and has been identified as a hotspot for new infections. Kano has the second highest number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the country and has already been under lockdown for a month. Shelter-in-place orders for Lagos, Abuja and Ogun states are also due to stay put for longer than expected, despite earlier plans for a phased reopening of the economy. And at least 20 people have been reportedly killed in northeastern Nigeria in a raid by suspected extremists. Witnesses claim that Boko Haram fighters stormed the village of Gajiganga as people were about to break their Ramadan fast. Nigerian soldiers are believed to have been posted on the other side of the village at the time. A vocal critic of Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni has been arrested. University lecturer Stella Nyanzi and a small group of demonstrators were detained on Monday for protesting against the impact of lockdown measures. In February, her 18-month sentence on charges of cyber harassment of Museveni was quashed. Her rally on Monday was reportedly in part motivated by criticism of the slow distribution of food relief by the state. Poorer families in the country are struggling to get by under one of the continent's toughest lockdowns. Nicolas Chemin tells us more.
Before COVID-19, life was already an uphill struggle for Rosemary Pamire. Now, with the lockdown, it's even worse. She lives in a poor district of Harare. She used to buy clothes from Zambia and sell them here. But now the border is closed, her passport has expired, and she doesn't have the money to renew it. 7 people live in her household.
Mhuri yangu haisi kuguta ndokudya kamwe chete kwairi kuita dai ndiri kushuvira kudai hurumende yedu yakwanisawo kutipawo chikafu vanhu vakwanisawo kudya vachiguta.
The government has promised a food grant of nearly $100 million, but it has yet to say where it will get the funding for this operation. Rosemary's sons used to sell goods on an informal market, but it's now been shut down for 6 weeks because of the lockdown. Rosemary has asked her 19-year-old daughter Anna to sell ice lollies and bottled water at a vegetable market. It's illegal and Anna could be arrested by the police, but she has no choice.
Dzimwe nguva mumba musina hupfu tisina kutengesa mushe mafriziti mama vanongoti torei mafriziti nemvura timwe tobva tarara vachiitira kuti mangwana pamwe tingatengesawo zvakanaka.
One of Anna's eyes is injured, but she does not have the $25 required for eye ointment every 2 weeks. A devastating drought, rampant inflation and now the lockdown have all hit Zimbabwe's poor. According to the World Food Programme, nearly 8 million people, half the population, are in need of food aid.
And Cuban doctors are being deployed to South African hospitals after having finished 2 weeks of quarantine following their arrival in the country last month. Local health officials say the doctors have been brought up to speed on the specifics of the South African coronavirus context and that they are due to be allocated to various levels at different facilities across the country. Now, the African Union and the United Nations have called for calm from all sides in Burundi's political landscape. This ahead of upcoming elections. The concerns have been sparked by recent clashes between rival supporters during campaigning. Rights groups believe that around 150 opposition members have been arrested over the past few weeks. The country was plunged into unrest in 2015 over incumbent Pierre Nkurunziza's controversial but eventually successful bid for a third term in office. Many Burundians fled to Rwanda to escape the violence and continue to follow the run-up to Wednesday's vote closely. Our correspondent sent us this report.
La commission d'enquête de l'ONU sur le Burundi se dit préoccupée par la violence qui s'observe pendant la campagne pour les élections du 20 mai prochain.
Patrick fled Burundi 5 years ago. From outside the country, this journalist can freely report on the current government's actions. He says his role is crucial.
Si nous continuons à travailler, c'est parce qu'on a voulu résister effectivement à notre métier de journaliste. On n'a pas voulu abandonner et même la population sur terrain qui nous informe via WhatsApp et qui sont très très fiers de notre travail parce qu'ils n'ont aucun autre canal de pouvoir s'informer.
Joseph follows Burundi's presidential campaign on Radio Inzamba. He fled in 2015 after he was severely beaten by members of the ruling party, the CNDD-FDD. He continues to require medical attention.
Tant que le système ne sera pas démantelé, le Burundi sera toujours sur le joug du CNDD-FDD. Les hommes peuvent changer, mais le système CNDD-FDD, c'est le même. Je ne peux pas miser sur le rentrée au Burundi, mais je mise sur la main du ciel.
Joseph is still traumatized by what happened to him in Burundi. He has little faith that the May 20th election will be transparent and is convinced the incumbent party's candidate Evariste Ndayishimiye will win. However, international analysts aren't so sure.
Il y a un candidat avec la possibilité de mobiliser la population, c'est vraiment Agathon Rasa. Donc il a vraiment une bonne base dans le pays, mais il y a aussi beaucoup de gens qui sont prêts pour une alternance politique. Donc qui préfèrent un autre candidat qu'un candidat de CNDD-FDD.
Still, many Burundian refugees fear the ruling party will do whatever it takes to block the opposition. The UN's Investigative Commission on Burundi is already on the lookout for possible irregularities in the electoral process.
Well, across West Africa, more mosques are reopening to allow the faithful to mark the holy month of Ramadan. In Senegal, coronavirus restrictions have been relaxed in some houses of worship, but concerns about the healthiness of public gatherings remain. Our correspondents report.
2 months to the day after it closed as a precautionary measure against the spread of COVID-19, Dakar's biggest mosque is once again open to the faithful. Masks, hand sanitizer and individual prayer mats are made available to keep worshippers at least 1.5 meters apart as they pray. Outside, Hassan Cissé is one of the many people queuing to enter the mosque. He says he's happy to see the return of group prayer.
Le peuple sénégalais est un peuple très discipliné. Donc, quand on nous avait demandé de ne pas sortir, de ne pas aller prier, nous étions tous restés à la maison. Et quand le président nous a demandé d'essayer de vivre avec le virus, donc il n'y a pas de souci.
Due to the limited number of worshippers allowed inside, some are forced to pray outside the grounds of the mosque. Here, keeping a safe distance is a little bit harder. Others prefer to stay at home and pray, like Mohamed Sané. He doesn't believe the president should have reopened the mosques.
Ce n'était pas une bonne idée parce que les raisons qui l'ont poussé à interdire un peu la fréquentation des lieux de culte n'ont pas évolué. Elles ont même empiré. Donc je ne vois aucunement l'utilité de lever ces restrictions-là. En n'allant pas prier, je ne m'expose pas. Donc si je ne m'expose pas, je ne risque pas de contaminer ma famille.
Many mosques kept their doors shut last Friday. This imam in the Dakar neighborhood of Medina didn't want to take any chances.
Sécurité bi amuñu ko motu ko ndax mënuloo ñëw ñii dugg ñii nga ne leen duñu dugg moo tax ñu décider rek dañuy xaar ba ñu am loo xamee ne lu wóor la mun na am yàlla delloo.
The easing of measures comes at a time when the number of positive cases is increasing in Senegal. The country now has more than 2,544 recorded cases and 26 deaths.
Well, that's FI in Africa for now. Thanks for joining us. Do so again if you can. Take care.